Inspector. The inspector displays controls and parameters for either the selected track in the track list or the event or part that is displayed in the editor in the lower zone. To show hide the inspector, click Show Hide Left Zone in the project window toolbar. The following tabs are available. Track. Opens the track inspector for the selected track. Editor. Opens the editor inspector for the event or part that is shown in the editor in the lower zone. Related links. Opening the track inspector. Opening the editor inspector. Opening the editor in the lower zone. Left zone. Opening the track inspector. Opening the track inspector. The track inspector shows controls and parameters for the selected track in the track list. Procedure. If the left zone is not visible, click Show Hide Left Zone on the project window toolbar to activate it. At the bottom of the left zone, click the Track tab. Result. The track inspector for the selected track opens. If more than one track is selected in the track list, the controls and parameters for the topmost selected track are shown. Note. In this documentation, we use Inspector to refer to the Track tab of the inspector. Inspector. Opening the editor inspector. Opening the editor inspector. The editor inspector shows controls and parameters for the event or part that is displayed in the editor in the lower zone. Prerequisite. The sample editor, the audio part editor, the key editor, the drum editor, or the score editor is shown in the lower zone. Procedure. If the left zone is not visible, click Show Hide Left Zone on the project window toolbar to activate the left zone. At the bottom of the left zone, click the Editor tab. Result. The editor inspector for the event or part opens. Note. The editor inspector only contains information if an editor is displayed in the lower zone. Otherwise it is empty. Related links. Opening the editor in the lower zone. Opening the track inspector. Opening the symbols tab for the score editor. Opening the symbols tab for the score editor. The score editor inspector allows you to select the following tabs, inspector and symbols. Prerequisite. The score editor is shown in the lower zone. Procedure. At the bottom of the left zone, click the editor tab. Select an option from the Switch Score Editor Inspector content pop-up menu. Result. The symbols tab is shown. Related links. Key editor inspector. Opening the editor inspector. Inspector sections. Inspector sections. The track tab and the editor tab of the inspector are divided into sections that each contain different controls for the track, event, or part. Not all inspector sections are shown by default. The available sections depend on the type of the selected track, event, or part and on the settings in the setup dialog for the track tab and the editor tab of the inspector. To open/close sections, click their names. If you open one section, the other sections are closed. To open a section without closing the other sections, Ctrl/CMD click the section name. Related links. Track Inspector Settings dialog. Inspector sections. Audio Track Inspector. Instrument Track Inspector. MIDI Track Inspector. Sampler Track Inspector. Arranger Track Inspector. Marker Track Inspector. Signature Track Inspector. Tempo Track Inspector. Transpose Track Inspector. VCA Fader Track Inspector. Video Track Inspector. Key Editor Inspector. Drum Editor Inspector. Sample Editor Inspector. Opening the Symbols tab for the score editor. Visibility. Visibility. The Visibility tab allows you to show or hide individual tracks from the track list and to determine the position of particular mix console channels in the lower zone. To open the Visibility tab, click Visibility. At the bottom of the Visibility, the following tabs are available. Track. Allows you to show or hide individual tracks from the track list. Zone. Allows you to determine and lock the position of certain mix console channels in the lower zone. Related links. Opening the mix console in the lower zone. Inspector sections. Opening the Visibility tab. Opening the Visibility tab. The Visibility tab allows you to show or hide individual tracks from the track list. Procedure. Click Show Hide Left Zone on the project window toolbar to activate the left zone. At the top of the left zone, click the Visibility tab. At the bottom of the left zone, click the Track tab. Related links. Showing/hiding individual tracks. Visibility. Showing/hiding individual tracks. Showing/hiding individual tracks. The Visibility tab shows a list of all the tracks of your project. You can show and hide individual tracks. To show/hide a track in the track list, check/uncheck it by clicking to the left of the track name. To activate/deactivate several tracks at the same time, select them and press Return. To show a hidden track exclusively, check it by shift-clicking to the left of the track name. To expand or collapse a folder, click the triangle to the left of a folder track. Note. The channels of the mix console in the lower zone are updated accordingly. This means that if you hide a track using the Visibility tab, the channel corresponding to that track is also hidden in the mix console in the lower zone. To synchronize the track and the channel visibility in a separate mix console window, use the Sync Visibility of Project and Mix Console function. Related links. Synchronizing track and channel visibility. Opening the Visibility tab. Synchronizing track and channel visibility. Synchronizing track and channel visibility. You can synchronize the track visibility in the project window with the channel visibility in a separate mix console window. Procedure. At the top of the left zone, select the Visibility tab. At the bottom of the left zone, select the Track tab. Click the equals sign to open the Sync Visibility of Project and Mix Console on/off menu. Select Sync Project and Mix Console to synchronize the track visibility with the channel visibility. Result: the track and channel visibility are synchronized. Note: you can only synchronize the track visibility in the project window with the channel visibility of one mix console. If you enable sync visibility of project and mix console on/off for a second mix console, the first link is lost. If you divide the track list, the top part of the list is not affected. Likewise, channels in the left or right zones of the mix console are not synchronized. Related links: synchronizing channel and track visibility, showing/hiding individual tracks, opening the zones. Opening the zones. The Zones tab allows you to determine and lock the position of certain mix console channels in the lower zone. Procedure: at the top of the left zone, click the Visibility tab. At the bottom of the left zone, click the Zones tab. Result: the mix console opens in the lower zone. Related links: opening the mix console in the lower zone, synchronizing track and channel visibility. Lower zone. Lower zone. The lower zone of the project window allows you to display specific windows and editors in an integrated and fixed zone of the project window. This is useful if you work on single-screen systems and notebooks, for example. To show hide the lower zone, click Show Hide Lower Zone on the project window toolbar. The lower zone features the following tabs: chord pads, mix console, sampler control, MIDI remote, and editor. To close the lower zone, click Close Lower Zone to the left of the tabs. Related links: opening chord pads, opening the mix console in the lower zone, opening sampler control, opening the editor in the lower zone, opening MIDI remote in the lower zone, project window toolbar, opening the zones, setting up the lower zone. Setting up the lower zone. The lower zone shows the chord pads, the editor, the sampler control, the mix console, and MIDI remote. You can change the order of the tabs, and you can hide tabs that you do not need. Procedure: click Setup Lower Zone in the bottom right of the lower zone. Do one of the following: activate/deactivate the options in the pop-up menu to show hide tabs in the lower zone. Select Setup to open a dialog where you can activate/deactivate the tabs and change their position. Note: in the presets section of this dialog, you can also save a preset of your configuration. Result: the tabs in the lower zone are shown according to your configuration. Related links: Setup dialog. Lower zone. Opening chord pads. Opening chord pads. Chord pads allow you to play with chords and to change their voicings and tensions. Procedure: click Show Hide Lower Zone on the project window toolbar to activate the lower zone. At the bottom of the lower zone, click the Chord Pads tab. Result: the chord pads are opened. Related links: chord pads. Setting up the lower zone. Project window toolbar. Setting up the lower zone. Opening the mix console in the lower zone. Opening the mix console in the lower zone. The mix console in the lower zone allows you to perform all basic mixing procedures from within the lower zone of the project window. At the same time, you see the context of your tracks and events. Procedure: click Show Hide Lower Zone on the project window toolbar to activate the lower zone. At the bottom of the lower zone, click the Mix Console tab. Result: the mix console is displayed in the lower zone. Related links: mix console in lower zone. Project window toolbar. Opening chord pads. Opening sampler control. Opening sampler control. Sampler control allows you to display and edit the waveform of an audio sample on a sampler track. Procedure: click Show Hide Lower Zone on the project window toolbar to activate the lower zone. At the bottom of the lower zone, click the Sampler Control tab. Result: sampler control is opened. Related links: sampler tracks. Project window toolbar. Opening the mix console in the lower zone. Opening the editor in the lower zone. Opening the editor in the lower zone. The editor in the lower zone allows you to perform event editing procedures from within the lower zone of the project window. At the same time, you see the context of your tracks and events. Note: by default, double-clicking an audio event/part or a MIDI part in the event display or selecting it and pressing return opens the corresponding editor in the lower zone of the project window. Using a menu command opens a separate editor window. You can change this in the Preferences dialog Editors page. Procedure: click Show Hide Lower Zone on the project window toolbar to activate the lower zone. At the bottom of the lower zone, click the Editor tab. In the event display, do one of the following: select a MIDI part. Select an audio event. Select an audio part. Result: depending on your event or part selection, the lower zone shows either the audio part editor, the sample editor, or one of the MIDI editors. Note: to change the default MIDI editor, select MIDI Setup Editor Preferences and select an option from the default MIDI editor pop-up menu. Note: if you open the editor and no event or part is selected, the editor in the lower zone is empty. Related links: selecting a different MIDI editor. Project window toolbar. Opening sampler control. Selecting a different MIDI editor. Selecting a different MIDI editor. You can display the MIDI part that is opened in the editor in the lower zone in a different MIDI editor. You can do this without changing the default MIDI editor. Procedure: on the Editor tab in the editor in the lower zone, click Select MIDI Editor. Select an editor from the pop-up menu. Result: the MIDI part is displayed in the selected editor. Note: this selection is temporary. The next time you open the MIDI part, the default MIDI editor is used. Opening the editor in the lower zone. Link project and lower zone editor cursors. Link project and lower zone editor cursors. You can link cursors and zoom factors of the project zone as well as the key editor, drum editor, and the audio part editor in the lower zone. Note: Link project and lower zone editor cursors is not available in the sample editor. Note: The display format of the ruler is not affected by this function. You can still set the project zone ruler and the editor ruler in the lower zone to different display formats. If you activate Link project and lower zone editor cursors, the cursors and zoom factors are linked in the event displays of the project zone and the lower zone. This is useful if you edit in both zones and you want to keep the same position in view. Note: In the key commands dialog in the edit category, you can assign a key command for this. Related links. Ruler. Ruler display format menu. Zooming in the project window. Selecting a different MIDI editor. Opening MIDI remote in the lower zone. Opening MIDI remote in the lower zone. The MIDI remote tab in the lower zone of the project window allows you to load scripts for MIDI remote controllers. It shows a visual representation of the actual physical controller and its control mappings to Cubase parameters. Procedure. If the lower zone is not visible, click Show Hide Lower Zone on the project window toolbar to activate the lower zone. At the bottom of the lower zone, click the MIDI remote tab. Result: The MIDI remote tab is opened in the lower zone. Note: The MIDI remote tab is not a clickable user interface. All operations are meant to be performed on the connected MIDI controller. Related links. MIDI remote. Link project and lower zone editor cursors. Right zone. Right zone. The right zone of the project window allows you to display the VST rack, the media rack, the control room rack, and the meter rack. To show hide the right zone, click Show Hide Right Zone on the project window toolbar. The top of the right zone features the following tabs: VST, Media, CR, and Meter. Note: You can show hide specific tabs in the right zone by right-clicking a tab and activating/deactivating the options in the context menu. Related links. VST rack in the right zone. Media rack in the right zone. Project window toolbar. Opening MIDI remote in the lower zone. Opening the VST rack in the right zone. Opening the VST rack in the right zone. You can open the VST rack in the right zone of the project window. This allows you to add and edit VST instruments and at the same time to see the context of your tracks and events. Procedure. Click Show Hide Right Zone on the project window toolbar to activate the right zone. At the top of the right zone, click the VST tab. Result: The VST rack is opened in the right zone of the project window. Related links. VST rack in the right zone. VST instruments. Project window toolbar. Right zone. VST rack in the right zone. VST rack in the right zone. The VST rack in the right zone of the project window allows you to add and edit VST instruments in the context of the project window. The following sections are available. Track. Shows the associated VST instrument for an instrument track. Rack. Shows a VST instrument. The following controls are available. Add track instrument. Opens the Add Track dialog that allows you to select an instrument and to add an instrument track that is associated with this instrument. Find instruments. Opens a selector that allows you to find a loaded instrument. Set remote control focus for VST quick controls to previous instrument. Allows you to set the remote control focus to the previous instrument. Set remote control focus for VST quick controls to next instrument. Allows you to set the remote control focus to the next instrument. Show hide all VST quick controls. Shows / hides the default quick controls for all loaded instruments. Settings. Opens the settings pop-up menu where you can activate / deactivate the following modes. Show VST quick controls for one slot only shows the VST quick controls exclusively for the selected instrument. MIDI channel follows track selection ensures that the channel selector follows the MIDI track selection in the project window. Use this mode if you work with multitimbral instruments. Remote control focus for VST quick controls follows track selection ensures that the VST quick controls remote control focus follows the track selection. Related links. VST instruments window. Opening the VST rack in the right zone. Opening the media rack in the right zone. Opening the media rack in the right zone. You can show the media rack in the right zone of the project window. This allows you to see the context of your tracks and events when you drag audio events, MIDI parts, presets, or instruments into the project window. Procedure. Click Show Hide Right Zone on the project window toolbar to activate the right zone. At the top of the right zone, click the Media tab. Result. The media rack is opened in the right zone of the project window. Related links. Media rack in the right zone. Media bay and media rack. Project window toolbar. VST rack in the right zone. Media rack in the right zone. Media rack in the right zone. The media rack in the right zone of the project window allows you to drag audio events, MIDI parts, or instrument presets into the event display. It lists Steinberg factory content and any installed Steinberg content sets. The media rack home tab displays the following tiles. VST instruments. Shows all included VST instruments. VST effects. Shows all included VST effects. Loops and samples. Shows audio loops, MIDI loops, or instrument sounds ordered by content set. Presets. Shows track presets, strip presets, pattern banks, FX chain presets, and VST FX presets. User presets. Shows track presets, strip presets, pattern banks, FX chain presets, VSD FX presets, and instrument presets that are listed in the user folder. Favorites. Shows your favorite folders and allows you to add new favorites. The favorites are automatically added to the Media Bay database. File browser. Shows your file system and the predefined folders favorites, this computer, VSD sound, factory content, and user content where you can search for media files and access them immediately. Related links. Media rack in right zone. Media Bay and Media Rack. Opening the Media Rack in the right zone. Opening the control room in the right zone. Opening the control room in the right zone. You can show the control room in the right zone of the project window. Procedure. Click Show Hide Right Zone on the project window toolbar to activate the right zone. At the top of the right zone, click the CR tab. Result. The control room is opened in the right zone of the project window. It has exactly the same features as the control room that you opened from the studio menu as a separate window. Related links. Control room. Project window toolbar. Media rack in the right zone. Opening the meter in the right zone. Opening the meter in the right zone. You can show the meter in the right zone of the project window. Procedure. Click Show Hide Right Zone on the project window toolbar to activate the right zone. At the top of the right zone, click the meter tab. Result. The meter is opened in the right zone of the project window. It has exactly the same features as the meter that you open in the right zone of the mix console. Related links. Metering and loudness. Project window toolbar. Opening the control room in the right zone. Keyboard focus in the project window. Keyboard focus in the project window. The different zones in the project window can be controlled by key commands. For this to work, you must set the keyboard focus to the zone that you want to control by key commands. The following project window zones can have the keyboard focus. Project zone. Note. If you activate Divide Track List, the area of the project zone that has the focus is indicated by a highlighted and solid focus frame, whereas the non-active area is shown with a dashed frame. Left zone. Lower zone. Right zone. If a zone has the keyboard focus, the border that surrounds it is highlighted in a specific color. Note. You can change the focus color in the Preferences dialog, User Interface, Color Schemes page. Related links. Project zone. Left zone. Lower zone. Right zone. Project window. Dividing the track list. Keyboard focus in the key editor. Opening the meter in the right zone. Activating keyboard focus for a zone. Activating keyboard focus for a zone. You can activate the keyboard focus for a zone via mouse click or key commands. Procedure. Do one of the following. To activate any zone, click in it. To activate the next zone, press Tab. This allows you to move forward through the zones. To activate the previous zone, press Shift Tab. Note. The editor in the lower zone automatically gets the keyboard focus if you double-click an event or part in the event display, if you select an event or part and press Return, or if you use key commands to open the zone. Result. The keyboard focus is activated for this zone and the border of the zone is highlighted. Note. The project zone and the lower zone have separate toolbars and info lines. If you use the toolbar or the info line for one of these zones, the corresponding zone automatically gets the focus. Related links. Keyboard focus in the project window. Keyboard focus in the key editor. Keyboard focus in the project window. Zooming in the project window. Zooming in the project window. To zoom in the project window, use the standard zoom techniques. Note. If screen redraws are slow on your system, activate Quick Zoom in the Preferences dialog editing page. Zooming horizontally. Select the zoom tool and click in the event display to zoom in. To zoom out, hold down Alt/Opt and click. Use the horizontal zoom sliders to zoom in and out. Click the lower half of the ruler and drag down to zoom in horizontally. Click the lower half of the ruler and drag up to zoom out horizontally. Click H to zoom in horizontally. Click G to zoom out horizontally. Note. If the grid type in the project window toolbar is set to adapt to zoom, the horizontal zoom level affects the grid and snap resolution in the event display. Zooming vertically. Select the zoom tool, click in the event display, and drag a selection rectangle to zoom in vertically and horizontally. Note. For this to work, you must deactivate the zoom tool standard mode, horizontal zooming only option in the Preferences dialog editing tools page. Use the vertical zoom sliders to zoom in and out. If you have made any individual track height adjustments, the relative height differences are maintained. Click Shift H to zoom in vertically. Click Shift G to zoom out vertically. Related links. Zoom submenu. Zoom presets. Zooming in on cycle markers. Zoom history. Link project and lower zone editor cursors. Grid type menu. Activating keyboard focus for a zone. Zooming in on audio contents. Zooming in on audio contents. You can zoom in vertically on the contents of audio parts and events. This is useful when viewing quiet audio passages. Procedure. Click the waveform zoom slider in the top right corner of the event display and drag up. Result. The contents of audio parts and events in your project are zoomed in vertically. After completing this task, to get an approximate reading on the level of the audio events by viewing the waveforms, zoom out by dragging the slider all the way down again. Otherwise, zoomed waveforms may be mistaken for clipped audio. Zooming in the project window. Zoom submenu.